And just like fasting, it can provide weight loss, but it's not so much even the weight you lose during the fast, but it's that you start cleansing, you start reversing, and it's a metabolic reset that helps you lose weight in the future, and it also provides a great cleanse. And if you eat this specific way for 5 days, you can get the same benefits as if you did a 3-day water fast. Hello, health champions. Today I want to talk about something that's a lot easier than fasting, but that can still give you the same benefits as an extended water fast. And these benefits include reversing or reducing insulin resistance. It is very powerful for losing weight. And you can also create autophagy, which is a form of cleansing process in the body. You can also start reversing degenerative disease, which is associated with a chronic low-grade inflammation, as we see in cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes, but also in things like cancer and dementia. So fasting can act as a metabolic reset and a cleanse where you start reversing all of these conditions. So typically fasting means that you only drink water, you don't eat anything else. But we're going to talk about in this video how you can fast and eat at the same time. By eating a very specific way, you can actually mimic fasting and get the same benefits. And if you eat this specific way for 5 days, you can get the same benefits as if you did a 3-day water fast. So that means you can still get the insulin drop, which means you're starting to reverse insulin resistance. You can also initiate autophagy, which means that when protein is scarce, then the body gets really, really good. It starts upregulating the recycling processes because it starts going into every little corner, every nook and cranny to find these residue of protein. And this could be bacteria, it could be virus, it could be damaged cells, misfolded proteins, any sort of junk that when you stop eating protein, when your protein goes really, really low in the diet, now the body has to go out and find these things. So it acts like a very powerful cleanup. And just like fasting, it can provide weight loss, but it's not so much even the weight you lose during the fast, but it's that you start cleansing, you start reversing, and it's a metabolic reset that helps you lose weight in the future, and it also provides a great cleanse. So let me just comment on strict fasting. I'm not opposed to that in any way. I just want you to keep your options open. And if you have trouble with extended water fasting, then this would really be something to look into. Now, water fasting, it works for a lot of people. And if you're one of those who can do it without much discomfort, or maybe you even enjoy it, then by all means, keep doing it. But still keep your options open just to kind of try things out and get some variety. But the biggest reason to look into this mimicking diet is that a lot of people have trouble fasting with just water because we're all different. And it can be things like genetic differences. It could be differences in our gut flora because the bacteria in our gut, they provide a lot of signaling about inflammation, about hunger, about insulin resistance. So we're not all the same. And there are some people who don't do very well when they try a water fast. They might go 16 hours okay, but beyond that, they start feeling weak. They start feeling really, really hungry to the point where they don't function really well. They might get lightheaded or dizzy or nauseous. So in other words, they're just not doing that well on a water fast. And if you want to eat the specific way to still get fasting benefits, then the rules are very simple. The first rule is that you eat less than 50% of your normal calories. And the second rule is equally important, and that's that you keep your protein between 15 and 20 grams per day. And 15 would be if you're a smaller person, and 20 would be if you're a little bit bigger. And the only other rule is that I believe that low carb will work better. There are a lot of people who do this without going specifically low carb, and it still works. But It's easier and it works better if you do low carb. So let me give you an example of what I did for one day out of these 5 days. So I started with a soup and salad, and there was 50 grams of lettuce, 0 grams of fat. I had 50 grams of tomatoes, 25 grams of cucumber, 50 grams of bell pepper, and 25 grams of onion. And so far, they're basically just trace amounts of fat in here. But then, of course, you want some good fat, some extra virgin olive oil on that salad. So I had 2 tablespoons of that. And I also had some soup that you can make your own. And I did for some of the days. But this particular day, I just bought a vegetable soup from a store, and that had 2.3 grams of fat in it. So we add that all up. It's about 30 grams of fat for that first meal. And then we look at the protein. And again, I picked food that are very, very low in protein. So far, we basically just have trace amounts of protein, which is the whole point of this diet. And then the soup had a little bit more at 4.5. So all in all, it was 6.5 grams of protein in this first meal. And then when we look at the carbs here, they're all very low. They have 0.5 gram or 1 gram until we get to the soup, because that had some carrots and a few other vegetables in it that had a little bit of carbohydrate. But it's not that critical to keep the carbohydrates super low, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about that as well. So all in all, there was 20 grams of carbs in that meal, and the calories, again, very, very low until we get to the olive oil, and then a little bit more for the soup. But that entire meal had about 380 calories. And then I made a little stir fry, and you can spice these up any way you like. I think with this one I had salt and pepper and some curry, and I cooked it in olive oil as well. So we have the leek and onion and cauliflower, and then I had some asparagus, some avocado, and some sweet potato on the side. And again, if you're really trying to go low carb, then you can cut out the sweet potato and do something else, do more asparagus or more avocado. And then, of course, I cooked this in some extra virgin olive oil again. And when it comes to fat, we see that all of these vegetables have very close to 0 until we get to avocado, which has 6.9 grams. The sweet potato has a fraction, and the extra virgin olive oil is pure fat. So that's 28 grams, again, just like the first meal. If we add that all up, that's 36 grams. And the protein is, again, very low. That's what we're choosing on purpose. The cauliflower is a little bit higher, but that's because there's a lot of cauliflower. There's 200 grams, and that's kind of the foundation for that stir fry. And the rest of them have less than 1 gram of protein. When we add it all up, we get 8.4 grams. And the carbs are going to be a little bit higher here. We have a few grams in each thing that we're eating. And all in all, it ends up at 32.3 grams. And now when we add this all up, we see that the leeks have 15, the onion has 29, the cauliflower 45, asparagus 7, avocado 70, sweet potato 69, and the olive oil again has 256 calories for a total of 486. And when we add this all up, we take the soup and the salad that I just gave you, and then the stir fry and vegetables. We get the totals to be 66 grams of fat, 15 grams of protein, 52 grams of carbs, and 867 calories total. So now let's just look at the macros on how many percent of the calories come from fat, protein, and carbohydrates. So we see that 69% of calories come from fat. So if you look and compare this to general guidelines or to how people eat for the most part, this is still a high-fat diet. The protein, of course, is extremely low, and that's where we want to keep it. 10% would be the absolute top, 10% of calories from fat, but 7 is better if you can get there, because again, that's the main thing that drives this autophagy. Now, the carbohydrates at 24% are a little bit higher than I would typically recommend, because on a ketogenic diet, you want to be around 5%. On a low carb diet, you want to be probably around 10 to 15%. So this is a little bit higher, but it's not a problem because the calories are so much lower overall. Because you're eating so much less food, then you're still going to get the autophagy and you're still going to be in ketosis. Now, the main challenge in selecting food for this fasting mimicking diet is going to be to find foods that are low enough in protein. And a lot of the things that you normally eat will be too high in protein, so you can't just eat less of the stuff you usually eat. And we want to understand that normally protein is very, very important, and we want to eat a moderate, a significant amount of high quality protein every day on an ongoing basis to rebuild our bodies. But the point of this is to mimic fasting. And if we keep the protein super low for a few days, then it's not going to do any harm. So the things that you can't eat are all animal products, because while they are nutritious, they are too high in protein for this diet. And this includes bone broth. So a lot of people love to have broth when they're fasting, but there is a lot of protein. A single serving, a single cup of bone broth could have 8 to 10 grams of protein. So you're like over half of your protein allowance in a single cup. Now, you can use vegetable broth or chicken broth or beef broth for your soups, but not bone broth. You also want to stay away from legumes. You don't want to have beans or lentils or peas or anything like that because they're too high in protein. You also want to avoid eggs and dairy, and you also can't have any nuts or seeds. So all of these foods will make it very difficult to keep your protein low enough. But here's what you can eat. You can eat leafy greens, and you can have a lot of those, almost unlimited, basically. You can also eat lots of non-starchy vegetables, and you can't eat unlimited, but you could have a lot. You can also have some tubers, and these are great for your soups. You could have some sweet potatoes, some rutabaga, some celery roots, some parsnip, etc. And you can have some, but you don't want to overdo it because they do have some starch and some calories. And then I would recommend that you have extra virgin olive oil for most of your fat and most of your calories. So that still means you're going to limit it quite a bit. You could have probably 4 to 5 tablespoons a day, but you need to stay under that 50% of your normal calories. And there's lots of resources to figure out different recipes. You can just go online and search, and hopefully you've watched enough of my videos that you know what real and good food is, so that you know what to avoid if these recipes contain something that you don't want to have. And there's one more way that you can do this, and that's to buy a prepackaged kit, a fasting mimicking diet kit. It's extremely convenient. It'll cost you about $200, which in my opinion is a lot of money for what you're getting, but on the other hand, you're not going to spend money on any other food for 5 days. However, I would not recommend that you get this kit unless you absolutely have to. If you know anything about cooking, if you have some time to figure this out yourself, then I feel that you're going to be better off, because this kit has no vegetables other than a few dried up pieces in the soup mixes. There is a lot of starch in these soup mixes for thickener, and it mostly consists of soup mixes and various forms of crackers and food bars. And a lot of these food bars are sweetened with chicory root, which is a natural thing, but you're getting a lot of it at one time. And for anyone who has a little bit of dysbiosis and maybe a little bit of small intestine bacterial overgrowth, you're going to get very bloated from eating this way. Now, the big question is, does it work? And yes, absolutely. They have spent a lot of time in formulating it and getting all of the numbers, the grams and the macros together. So it's very convenient. And the advantage is you don't have to measure, you don't have to cook, and you minimize the risk of straying outside of the guidelines. And it will get you into ketosis. It will get you into autophagy, even though it has a lot more carbohydrate than what I was showing you. So if we compare what I did, which my macros again were 69% fat, 7% protein, and 24% carbohydrate, in their kit, you're going to get only 37% fat, and you're going to get 10% protein. It's going to vary a little bit day by day, but it'll be between 7 and 10%. But the carbohydrates will be over 50%, and most of that is going to be various forms of starch and soup thickeners. So it will absolutely work. It's very precise and pre-planned, but I believe if you have the ability and the patience to cook, I think that by eating a lot of salads and getting a lot of fiber, you can drop that carbohydrate component and get some good fat. You can get tons more fiber, and you get a lot more bulk to keep you full. And again, if you do great on a 3-day water fast, then there may not be any reason to try this. But if you have trouble going longer than 1 day on a water fast, then this would definitely be something that could help you. And you can do this about once a quarter if you're just maintaining, if you're just trying to prevent diseases, get some good autophagy and some prevention built in. Or if you're reversing a condition like type 2 diabetes or any condition associated with insulin resistance, then you can probably do more, maybe as often as once a month. But here's another way to look at it also, that even if you just do this once a quarter or twice a year, it's pretty easy once you get the hang of it to just throw in maybe 1 or 2 days here and there. So instead of eating your usual stuff, you just back off a little bit, maybe 1 day a week, maybe 2 days every month, whatever suits your needs and whatever you feel good about. If you enjoyed this video, you're going to love that one. And if you truly want to master health by understanding how the body really works, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell, and turn on all the notifications so you never miss a life-saving video.